Right. So what is linguistics? I'm going to give you a very brief overview of what we will be doing in the next couple of hours. So to begin with linguistics, we will first be looking at the relationship between form and meaning, okay? And then the relationship between speech and writing. So we'll first look at what is the relationship between the two and how a study of this has led to what we call as linguistics. We will go through the definition of linguistics and also what exactly is analyzed in this linguistics. Then we will talk about sentence pattern, concord, phonology, morphology, idiolect, dialect, and transformational generative grammar. So this is a broad overview. This is something that what you have in your syllabus. Okay. So to begin with, I would like to give you a very I would like you to give a close look at the sentences that are on the screen. Look at the first sentence. The dog jumped over the log. Now I have underlined the first letters of the two words dog and log. Now, what exactly, how exactly did the difference arise that a dog meant an animal and a log meant a piece of wood? So just because we replace D with L or L with D, the meaning completely changes. How exactly did this happen? So what does D signify? What does L signify? Does it really have some meaning? The next sentence, the log jumped over the dog. Now look at the first sentence, the dog jumped over the log. The log jumped over the dog. Now, all of us do understand that the first sentence is meaningful, whereas the second sentence is not meaningful. Why? Because we know that a log cannot jump over a dog. It doesn't have legs to jump over a dog. Okay, so this is something that is related to the meaning of the sentence. So please do understand that the words or the letters which become words as such, the letters that form words as such do not have any meaning of their own. The letters that form words, okay, say you just have a D there, just have a T there, just have an L there or an A there, it is not going to make any sense to us. The letters as such do not have a meaning of their own. They are meaningless sounds. They are meaningless forms as such, right? But when we put 2-3 letters together, okay, put a couple of letters together, put 4 words together, put 4 letters together, we get a word, right? Now, this word has been given some meaning by us, the people who communicate in that language. What I'm trying to tell you now is not restricted only to English. This is with reference to all languages for that matter, right? All languages have the same issue. The letters, the languages that have written scripts, okay, I'm very specific, the languages that have written scripts, all of them have the same, concept that the letters as such do not have any special significance unless they are put together to form words. Now, we human beings have created these words by putting D first and then by adding O to it and then by adding G to it. We framed a word. We gave it a meaning. I'm sure all of you must have done structuralism, right? You all must have done science, right? So what exactly does it signify, the signifier and the signified, right? So what do we say that dog relates or refers to this particular animal, right? So ultimately, so it goes back to that, in fact, where a particular word which does not signify something that is specific, something that is singular, right? The meaning keeps differing, right? That is what is basic, the sign, the signifier and the signified basically means, right? It does not end at one particular meaning, right? So this is what linguistics is actually about. That is, it tries to tell us this these letters that actually do not have any significant meaning, when put together in the form of words, which again grow into a sentence, right? And sentences grow into paragraphs, right? So then the entire concept or the entire idea is being explained by that form, or by that, say it's a paragraph or a sentence, whatever. So we get to know, the reader understands the concept or the idea that's being explained there, right? So what is articulation? This is nothing but meaningless sounds which are combined to form meaningful signs. That's what we mean. So when I say dog, all of us get the image of a dog in our mind. The moment I say jump, all of us get an image of somebody jumping. If I say the dog jumped, then I'm sure all of you thought of, or all of you had an image of a dog jumping over a log, right? So the moment you hear log, yes, you all know that it's a piece of wood, a big piece of wood. So you all definitely, this image would have come to your mind, irrespective of how you thought, where you were thinking. The moment you listen to this sentence, the dog jumped over the log, definitely the way we understand human mind, the way the human mind understands is through images. So the first thing that we get is a mental image of a dog jumping over a log. Now, who taught us to imagine this dog? See, I would have thought of Pomeranian. Somebody would have thought of, the local breed. Another would have thought of a retriever. Another would have thought of a Doberman. Okay, so the dog differs, right? And the color of the log differs. I would have thought of a red log. Somebody would have thought of a black one. Somebody would have thought of a brown one. Okay, so the color, the definition, the form might differ, but then the concept, the idea, all of us would have thought of some log, right? So the image with which we understand this sentence is something that we create. We ourselves create. Okay, so what helps us create these meaningful signs? So that's why I'm telling you, these are signs. They are only signs. They are not what they stand for. They're only signs. When I say log, I think of a green one, somebody thinks of a brown one, somebody else thinks of a red one. So the log concept is the same, but the form and the finish, they differ, right? So these meaningless sounds, they combine to form meaningful signs. Okay, so this is what I wanted you all to understand from this, that all these letters, they are meaningless. They are meaningless sounds. They combine to form small little words, and these words, when put in a particular format, in a particular form, what we call as syntax, where these signs are arranged in a particular fashion, it becomes a syntax, because that is what helps us understand what that phrase or what that sentence is, what that sentence means. Simple as that. Okay, so these signs, the words are nothing but letters put together. Okay, so what if somebody, sometime when this English language was being formed, instead of saying God, okay, they would have said BOD, board. All of us would think of, they say they had formulated BOD, board, to be someone who's supreme, to be someone who is ruling this world, to be someone who is directing us, who's a Vayapulla, who's supreme, omnipresent, omniscient. So instead of God, Okay. If somebody would have said BOD and then all of us followed. So all of us would now be thinking BOD to refer to that supreme being, right? So this putting together of several letters into a particular form, creating these signs and arranging these signs in a particular order, which is nothing but syntax, is what linguistics is very concerned about. Okay, so the form and the meaning. Okay, the form and the meaning. So the form means the signs which are put together, and then the meaning that the sound is made to create in us. So the sound as such doesn't have a meaning. If we had not thought of jumped, the word jump, G-A-U-M-P, if we human beings had not given that particular meaning to that word jump. So instead of saying jumping is from hopping from one place to another, okay, without a leap kind of a movement where I don't put my feet down, I just move a leap from point A to point B. If I had, instead of saying jump, if I would have if somebody, the people who started developing this language would have called it eat, E-A-T, eat. Just imagine if people who spoke English before us, they called leaping from point A to point B as eat. All of us would be thinking eat means is to move from point A to point B, right? So what exactly is linguistics concerned about? It is concerned about the way these letters fall into a particular form. Okay, and these forms have a particular meaning. Okay, so we are the ones who have created this meaning. We are the ones who are trying to understand this meaning. Okay, so this expression. So articulation is nothing but the way we sound, okay? The sounds, the way we pronounce these words. When I say D, when I read D-O-G, I read it as dog. I don't read it as dig, or I don't read it as dig. So that will give me a different meaning, because I know just by merely substituting D-O-G with D-I-G, the meaning completely changes. Right? So I know that because dig has a different meaning, dog has a different meaning, log has a different meaning, bog has a different meaning. So just merely changing one particular letter, I can mean different things. So these are meaningless sounds which are combined to form meaningful signs. And when I arrange these meaningful signs, then it becomes, then it's called as syntax. And linguistics is concerned about all these forms of language. Now let's go to speech versus writing. So many of us think that writing is something that is primary. Okay, so there are some reasons that I found that why is writing a primary method or a primary mode of communication. So the first point is they tend to be carefully worded, okay, and better organized. So when more than speaking, the spoken form of a text, the written form, there is always a mode of correction. Say, for example, the same words which the same words which I'm using now, the same lecture that I'm giving you now, if I write it down, okay, there will not be repetitions. Obviously, there will not be, when I say, as I speak now, I use these fillers, right? I will not have them there, right? Then the sentences will be more continuous, maybe, right? And there'll be lesser errors, okay? And there will not be incomplete sentences. Like when I talk, I may have incomplete sentences, but maybe they will not be, obviously they'll not be incomplete sentences when I write a text, okay? Because writing basically involves a lot of planning, okay? And so when we plan and we write, it is not like how our students write. Students write in the examination without thinking, without planning. Very few students plan, they read, they learn it by rote, they come and write it. Okay, but if you just give them an on the spot, just give them a topic on the spot and tell them to write, on a particular topic, then how many students will definitely have adequate amount of ideas to really put it in the form of a text, put it in the form of words and sentences and paragraphs, and how many of them would really ensure that the entire essay or the paragraph is without any errors? Yes, there are. But when compared to speech, written mode or the written text has lesser or fewer errors. Okay, so that's one. Then spelling is more uniform when it comes to writing, because you have a record, a written record, a kind of a proof which you can refer at any point of time. So spelling is more uniform. But now that you have, English is no more the treasure of just England. It has become a lingua franca. So all of us use English who are non-native speakers, and the way we say these words, the way we spell them, the way we pronounce them, everything, is kind of indigenized, where we try to make it our own. We try to yeah, that's what I said. So you try to make it your own, right? So that's how we have different varieties of English. But then when it comes to spelling, yes, when it only through written mode, I'm sure all of you remember when we were doing language, when I talked of Samuel Johnson, I said the dictionary, the one of the most important functions of dictionary, or the role that dictionary played was standardizing the spellings, right? So when it came to written mode, yes, they tried to standardize spelling. So that is followed even today. A written text can last, yes, it can be preserved for a long time. Yes. Now, what are the linguists' reasons? So this is something that's writing is primary, but why do linguists say that speech is primary? They say that spoken language existed much earlier than writing. So when we talked of how language originated, we never spoke of people writing and communicating. We only spoke of Bao theory, poo theory, where it was just oral communication, right? So spoken existed much earlier. Okay, and it was somewhere, in 5,500 years ago, very likely that we have a written form of a particular language. Then there are societies which have only spoken, but they don't have written language at all, written scripts for their language at all. So there are communities that still communicate only through spoken way, okay, spoken mode. Then speaking, the art of speaking, the art to speak a language can be learned easier and much earlier than to learn writing. Okay, so that's one thing. And learning or speaking is something that you can learn faster. Okay, and you don't have to really though there are spoken English classes, so that's very ironic, in fact, because the more you start speaking in a particular language, say for example, all of you are in Chennai, suddenly there is a relocation to maybe say Andhra Pradesh, or maybe say Odisha, and you know that you have to stay there for another 5 or 6 years, then obviously what would we do? We would first learn how to communicate in that particular native language. It could be Kannada or Telugu or Odia, whatever. So first thing is, we won't sit and start writing. We won't sit and start learning to write that language, but we would start first to pronounce words, to say those words in that language, right? So right, so that's what spoken is acquired automatically, and writing, yeah, you'll have to look at something and then only write and practice the script of that particular language. Okay, processing, yeah, processing and production of written language is overlaid on the spoken language, which centers the brain. So that's very important. So psycholinguistics evidence itself, the very field of psycholinguistics, we'll talk about psycholinguistics much later. So it is the field of linguistics which tries to analyze the connection between language and human psychology. Okay, so how are they related? Okay, so so that says that spoken language centers in the brain. That's what they say. Then speech contains information that writing lacks. Yes. So when I speak, my intonation matters, my stress matters, my voice quality matters. So these are very evident in conveying the right meaning to the audience. Okay, so when I read, what happens is, the way we read, the way I read a particular text, the stress with the intonation, with the a kind of expression, is completely different from the way another person reads it, right? So the meaning also is conveyed in different ways then, because if, say for example, have a cup of tea, okay, have a cup of tea, I'm just giving you a very a very common example, have a cup of tea. Now when I read a particular line, have a cup of tea, and there's no punctuation mark saying, so I can read it whichever way we want, or whichever way I want. Say I could say, have a cup of tea. So I'm asking a question there, have a cup of tea, or have a cup of tea. So I'm offering it as a, why don't you have a cup of tea? So I'm answering them, or I'm asking them, right? Have a cup of tea. So you're trying to tell them that I have a cup of tea. So the intonation matters when it comes to speech. But if it's just a bare sentence, the reader, it depends on the reader what kind of a meaning the reader derives from it. Okay, fine. Now we have finished the relationship between, form and meaning, speech and writing. Okay, now let's go to definition. So the scientific or systematic study of language, that is called as linguistics. The scientific or systematic study of language. You may maybe make note of them, because whatever is up on the slide, it is for you to maybe take running notes. It may not match with the, it may not be very similar to the notes that you've got from the academy. So this may be, added as running notes as you listen. So scientific or systematic study of language. What is it called? It's called linguistics. It scientifically studies. What does it study? What does linguistics study? It studies the rules, systems, and the principles of human languages. Okay, it studies the rules, systems, and principles of human languages. So that is called as linguistics. So it does not study like how we see literature, the emotive kind, no, or the connotative kind, no. It is a scientific study. So every rule has a logic behind it, has a reason behind it. Okay, so every study in linguistics should be accompanied by a logical reason. Why have we said this? Why is it like this? Okay, so it is not a connotative study for a person, for the readers to take meaning as they want, but it is to be accompanied by what we call a scientific reasoning. All right. Now, what are linguists concerned about? So the people who study about a language, they're called as linguists. They are interested in language structure. So what exactly is language structure? So what does a language comprise of? What is a language made of? So we have to know that, right? So when we study, say, other subjects like, history or science, right? We study them in English or in Tamil or in Hindi. So what has language become? Language has become a medium to study a subject. Right? So all of us have done BA English literature. So many of us, okay. So BA or MA English literature, but all of us definitely would have had some other subjects also. Say for example, political science. Some of us would have had economics, or social studies, or math, or whatever. At least at school level, we would have studied them. In which language did we study? We definitely did not study maths in a language called as mathematics. We did not study social studies in a language called social studies. We studied the subject social through English or through Tamil or through Hindi. So these are languages. Now, what do linguists do? They look at language itself as a subject. Like how we studied history or science, language itself has become a subject for them. So they study language through language. I hope I'm clear. Any doubts? Any doubts as of now?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Right. So linguists study language through language, and that's why linguists are interested in language structure. So what are the formal properties of language? Let's go to that. The word structure. So what is word structure? The study of word structure called morphology. You may have to maybe note down this or maybe remember it. Word structure, the study of word structure is called morphology. The form, okay, it's called morphology. The study of sentence structure is nothing but syntax. The speech or sounds, the sounds related to speech, they're called as phonetics. Rules and patterns of sounds, they are called as phonology. So the difference between phonology and phonetics, you'll have to know. Phonetic is just speech sounds. Okay, that's a system. Phonetic is a system in which you'll have to produce sounds. So all the while I've been talking in English. So ALL should be pronounced as all and not al. Pronounced should be pronounced as pronounced, not pronounced, or pronounced or pronounced. Okay, so this is phonetics. It tells you how to pronounce a particular sound, how to say a particular sound. Okay, whereas phonology is nothing but the rules and patterns of these sounds. It talks to us about the various rules and patterns of a sound. A particular way in which a sound is being produced. That's called phonology. Okay, then comes meaning. So language as such, I told you, is a tool to communicate an idea, right? So the communication of an idea is nothing but meaning, generating meaning from a particular word or a phrase or a clause or whatever, right? So you're trying to generate meaning. So that is nothing but semantics and pragmatic. Semantic is nothing but just the meaning. Pragmatics is nothing but the contextual meaning. All right. So now let me just give you the difference between a polyglot and a linguist. Polyglot is a person who knows a lot of languages, a person who is multilingual kind of. And linguist is a person who studies language. So this is what is the difference between learning a language and learning about a language. So learning a language is a person, I know to speak Hindi, Urdu, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada. I know to speak them. So I've learned all these languages maybe, but learning about a language is linguistics. So what about that particular language? Okay, so that is very important. Now, what are the different levels of linguistic analysis? And what are the different levels of structure? So when I talk of phonetics and phonology, I'm only talking about the sounds. So if you're not able to understand this, so there are different structures of language. So earlier slide we saw that what are the formal properties of language, and linguists are interested in language structure. We spoke of that. So what are the different language structures? Sounds, word formation, sentence formation, meanings, and connected sentences. These are the different levels of structures. Now, what are the levels of linguistic analysis? So phonetics and phonology, they study sounds. Morphology, they study word formations. Syntax is sentence formation. Semantics is meaning generation. Discourse is connected sentences. So this discourse, I'm sure all of you know. So discourse, you have studied in structuralism again. So where we see that discourse is nothing but sentences put together, the kind of meaning that the text generates. Okay, so the discourse, just the text itself. All right, so how are they connected to each other? How do they, as a whole, how do they form a whole? Okay, so that's what it is. Now, what is the scope? So when we study a language, we don't study it in relation to other areas. As I told you some time back, we don't study it as something that's related to history or science or philosophy or whatever. But we study it as a enclosed autonomous system. So that is the scope of linguistics. You study the language itself. You describe the language. You study the nature of the language. So when we spoke of word formations, when we spoke of the way meanings underwent changes, from earlier years, from how they've undergone a lot of change through different reasons, through different terms that we spoke of, right? So a language is this, at least English language has traveled a long way to the form that we have right now, right? So what is the study, or what is the nature of this language? How amicable it is, when we know that even IO is a part of English language, right? So they've included that in Oxford Dictionary. So imagine, how inclusive is that language? How broad minded is the language, right? Is it just conservative enough to not to expand its vocabulary, not to allow non-native speakers to speak it the way they want, right? So these are certain things. How is that particular language, the nature of that particular language? Then to establish a theory of language. So once you study the nature of a language, then you try to establish the theory of language. So different theories of language that we did, the last session of about the last session on English language, right? So different theories about language. Then one important scope of linguistics is descriptive, historical, and comparative linguistics. These are three different linguistics, fields of study in linguistics: descriptive, historical, and comparative. So they have contributed a lot to the growth of this language. Okay, so we will do it at the end. Descriptive, what are these? The different branches of linguistics: descriptive linguistics, historical, and comparative linguistics. So these are different branches. All right, so this is the scope. So let's move to word, phrase, clause, and sentence. What is the difference between word, phrase, clause, and sentence? So what is a phrase? Now I have given definitions for your reference. You may please take note of it if you want, because you might be asked questions. They would give you definitions, and they may give you some options to point out what it is. So definitions, yes, they do help us understand. But beyond definitions, yes, you should first know what is a phrase. So just remember that phrase is just a group of words. That's all. Okay, just a group of words. 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Okay. It is just a group of words. So in that sense, if you say all sentences are made of phrases. When I say the desk is gray in color, the desk is a phrase. The is a word. Desk is a phrase. The is a word. Desk is a word. Is a word. Green is a word. The desk is green. Now, when I say the desk, it becomes a phrase. So a group of words which act together as a grammatical unit. Yes, I've given you some example here. The very happy squirrel. Now it's a noun phrase because it's a noun. Squirrel is a noun, right? And just the word very happy, because happy is an adjective, very is also an adjective. Just very happy there is an adjective phrase. So phrase is just a group of words. They act together as a grammatical unit. Okay, this is for the sake of definition, but otherwise you just have to remember that a group of words is called a phrase. What is the difference between a clause and a phrase? The only difference is a clause has a subject, okay, and a predicate or a verb, not predicate, yeah, a verb, okay. So it has a subject and a verb. So for example, I've given you a sentence here. The fast red squirrel darted up a tree. Are you able to see the full screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it visible as a full screen or
No, it's visible.
Okay, so as a full screen, right? Okay, so that you don't get distracted and you get a clearer, vision. All right. So the fast red squirrel darted up a tree. Now this is a sentence, right? What is the subject of the sentence? The fast red squirrel. The verb is darted up the tree. Okay, so a clause is nothing but a, group of words or phrases put together. But what is the only condition? A clause must have a subject and a verb. All right. Now, what about a sentence? Sentence can have one or more clauses and a phrase or without a phrase. Okay, a phrase is something that's hanging in midair. Okay, so it can have one or more than one clause. Say if it's a simple sentence, then it's just one clause. If it's a compound, then it's two or more clauses. If it's if it's a complex sentence, then we have one main clause and some subordinate clauses, right? So sentence is a syntactical form where clauses are put together with or without a phrase. Okay, I hope these definitions make sense to you, and I'm sure all of us know it already, but then just to help you understand. All right, now sentence patterns. I'm sure all of you must be teaching sentence patterns to your students too, but anyway, just to brush up quickly. So when it comes to sentence pattern, the TRB perspective, they may give you a sentence and they may ask you the pattern, to choose the pattern from the given options. Okay, so say for example they give you this word, this sentence, Ramu watered the plants, and they would give you options is SVA, SVO, SVIO, SVD, like that. Okay, SVDO kind of. So you'll have to choose. For that you have to know what is SVO and all. So S is nothing but the subject, the doer of the action. V is nothing but the verb, the action done. O is the object on which the effect of the action takes place, right? O. And there are two different O's. One is the direct object, another is the indirect object. Okay, so as we do, I'll tell you. Next is the adjunct. Adjunct is, an additional information that is a part of a sentence. You can the sentence can do without it. That's the exact the meaning. Adjunct is an added information which the sentence, which is actually not as important as it should be. It's not so important. You can leave it out. That's an adjunct, something like an adverbial. Okay. Then comes C, complement. Because complement is nothing but when somebody tells you, you look so good, so you look so beautiful. So beautiful becomes a compliment, right? So what is compliment? It tries to tell you about the particular noun. Okay, so something that's told about the noun. Okay, it's almost like an adjective. Okay, so if I say a beautiful girl, beautiful is an adjective. A girl is beautiful, beautiful becomes a compliment. So it almost serves the same function as an adjective. Okay, so let's go to the sentences. Ramu watered the plants. So Ramu is the doer. Watered is the action. The plants, they are the beneficiaries of the action. The effect of the action is on the plants. So they become O. So SVO is the pattern for the first sentence. Would anyone like to try the second one?
SVC.
SVC, ma'am.
Very good. SVC. Third one.
SV, ma'am. Indirect object and direct object. Ma'am.
SV. What is money? Direct or indirect?
Indirect object.
Correct. So what we give, so this is what I told you, DO and IO. What we give, the object that we give that goes from directly from the doer becomes the direct object. Okay, so the end receiver, the end result, or the effect that falls on the end object becomes the indirect object. Okay, so money becomes the direct object, and to the beggar, so the beggar is the one who's finally receiving it. So both are objects. Money is also object, beggar is also object, but money is a direct object, Beggar is the indirect object. So that's what I've written as DO and IO. Okay, right. So SVDOIO. Yes, next one. Hame bought a laptop yesterday.
SVOA, ma'am. SVOA.
Very good. SVOA. Correct. SVOA. Hame is subject. Bought is verb. A laptop is object. Yesterday is an added information. You really don't need it. Otherwise, the sentence is perfect. Hame bought a laptop. Fine. Right? So yesterday becomes an adjunct. Very good. Next.
SVA.
Correct. SVA. It's not SVC. Okay. How did she shout? It doesn't talk about the person who's shouting, but it talks about the way the action is being done. So it becomes an adjunct. Okay. So please remember, adjunct is something that's closely related to adverbial. So she shouted angrily is SVA. Correct. Next.
SVOA.
SVOA.
SVOCA.
Very good. SVOCA. Very good. Next one.
SVC.
SV.
ma'am.
C and A, ma'am.
Very good. SVC and A. SVCA. Okay. S is the queen, the subject. V is the verb, looked. Gorgeous is about the queen. So it becomes a compliment. At the royal dinner is an additional information. So it becomes A. Right?
Okay.
SVCA. Very good. Next one.
SVOC and A, ma'am. SVOC and A.
Please think and answer because it's a little, twisty, different. They made him. So
SVOC.
and
ma'am.
him.
Indirect object.
No, ma'am. SVOC and A.
Very good. SV. They is the subject. Made is the verb. Him is the object. Remember this. The
Yes,
captain. What is captain? Captain is who? Him.
Subject.
About the object. About the object. So whether it's about the subject or the object, you consider it as C only, complement only. Okay. So they made him the captain. SVOC.
C.
On Independence Day is not necessary at all. So it becomes A. So SVOCA. Okay. So you'll have to remember this. Is that clear? Any
Yes,
doubts
ma'am.
here? Anyone who
No,
did not understand, please let me know. I'm on full screen mode, so I may not be able to see you. If anybody has any doubts, please, you can unmute and talk.
Can you come again? The queen looked gorgeous at the royal dinner.
Correct. The queen is the subject because the entire sentence is about the queen. So the queen becomes a subject. Looked is actually the verb, right? So SV. Gorgeous. How did the queen look? So if I replace the sentence, if I rephrase the sentence as the gorgeous queen at the royal dinner was at the royal dinner. The gorgeous queen was at the royal dinner. So what is gorgeous talking about?
The queen.
Noun, ma'am.
The noun.
Subject.
Somebody asked this question. Please answer me. What does gorgeous talk about?
Talk about the subject, ma'am.
Right. Were you the person who asked me?
No, ma'am.
So I wanted the person who asked me to answer me now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm asked
Yeah. So gorgeous, what does gorgeous refer to? The queen, right?
about the queen. It's
Right.
noun.
So it is actually an adjective. If I say the gorgeous queen, gorgeous is an adjective. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So when an adjective is not placed before a noun, but it comes after the verb, it becomes a complement in a sentence. Okay. So the queen is subject. Looked is verb. Gorgeous is complement to the queen. But what is not very essential to the sentence is at the royal dinner. The sentence holds very good when I just say the queen looked gorgeous. I really don't have to know where and when, right? So at the royal dinner becomes an adjunct here. It's an added information. Okay,
Okay.
clear?
That the queen, how she looked gorgeous. So we have to mention as compliment, isn't it, ma'am?
Correct, correct. Anything about the subject or the object, about the subject or the object, in the sense a description, a kind of a, the appearance, any quality, or the function of an adjective. Same, complement does the same function of an adjective. There's no difference. Complement does the same function of an adjective, just that the adjective comes before the object or the noun, the subject. Okay, whereas complement comes after the verb. Simple. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Any other doubt?
No, ma'am. It's clear, ma'am.
Okay. So now let's go to concord. So concord is nothing but, what we call a subject verb concord. So the most important, I would say, when it comes to language, the most important aspect of a language is concord, because that is where many of us go wrong. We tend to go wrong when we try to match the word and the number of the noun. Say, for example, when we have singular noun, so singular subject, obviously the verb should go in agreement with the subject, the number of the subject. So if it's singular subject, then obviously the verb should also correspond to that. But what we generally do is we are ignorant of that, or we're not very careful about using. We say they has, we say he have, which is wrong. He, she is always has. He, she is always is. Is. He, she is always was. But what do? We say he have. We say he do, which is wrong. He is singular. So concord is nothing but the agreement between the subject, that is the number of the subject, and the verb. So if it's a singular noun, obviously the verb should also be singular. If it's a plural noun, the verb should also be plural. For example, he eats, she eats, we eat, they eat, I eat. I is an exception always. So we eat, plural. They eat, plural. She eats, singular. He eats, singular. It eats, singular. Rama eats, singular. Rama and Ravana eat, plural. Right? So this is subject-verb agreement. So it is just that the number of the subject should correspond, or the verb should correspond to the number of the subject. It's the other way around. The verb should correspond to the number of subject. So it's plural. If it is the country, and again, subject verb concord, where do we go wrong? Another thing, when we use conjunctions, something like, the manager along with his family visit or visits the temple. Tell me. The manager along with his family dash the temple. Visit the temple or visits the temple? Anyone?
Visits, ma'am.
Visits, ma'am.
Singular.
Visits the temple.
Singular.
Visits the temple, not visit. Along. Okay, along with his family becomes a separate phrase there. So the verb should correspond only to the manager. So the manager along with his family visits the temple. The manager along with his friends visits the temple. Okay, whereas the manager and his friends, or the manager and his friend visit or visits the temple.
Visit, ma'am.
So this is nothing but subject verb concord. So absolutely fine. So I think all of you are pretty sure about that. So maybe you might get a question on what is concord, the theoretical definition of concord. So that I've given it to you here. The grammatical agreement between two words in a sentence. Okay, especially the subject and the verb. Okay, so the definition I've given it to you here. The concept we just saw, and I'm sure all of you already know it well. So you're able to match. So you might get a question saying, a given sentence where what is the error? So the error could be phonetic error, it could be, morphological error, syntactical error, subject concord error. So they might ask you a question like that, given a sentence with a concord error, okay, where the subject does not, the subject and the verb do not agree. They might ask you to point out the error in the sentence. Okay, so in the options, they would give you syntactical error, morphological error. They might give you, concord error or pattern, whatever, any error. But you should know when the subject and the verb do not match, it is concord error. Okay. Right. So shall we move ahead with phonology?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts till now? I think I've clarified. There was just one sentence pattern. I've clarified that. Okay, let's move to phonology. Okay. So what is phonology? Now, all of us know phono. Phono, the word phono refers to sound, right? Logi refers to logic. Logic is nothing but study. So you study, reason, logic. Okay, so logic. So phonology is nothing but the study of sound. So what about sound do we study in phonology? The structure of sound, the pattern of sound, the systems of sound in a particular language. So we study the structure, the pattern, and the system. So if I say C, if I write C-A-T, it has to be pronounced as cat and not cut. If I write C-U-T, it has to be pronounced as cut and not caught. If I write C-O-T, it has to be pronounced as caught and not kit. If I write K-I-T, I should pronounce it as kit and not kate. So this is structure, pattern, system. Giving you an example. Cricket, how a sound is produced by different people speaking different languages. C-R-I-C-K-E-T, cricket. Some of us say cricket, some of us say cricket, depending on our, our ability to generate sounds. Our unique ability to generate sounds, it depends on our mother tongue influence. It depends on where we come from, our indigenous practices. It depends on all that. It depends mostly on an individual's ability to speak. Okay, so that is nothing but phonology. It studies that. It studies how a particular sound structure functions in itself, how a particular sound structure differs or a sound pattern differs. So, for example, if a Malayali speaks English with the Malayalam accent or the Malayalam tone or the Malayalam influence, the language would be completely different. Words will be pronounced a different way. Words will be, the sentence patterns would be different. If a Tamilian speaks English, the sentence pattern will be different. I'm sure you should refer to this particular, essay because we had it now. We have that in our syllabus. I'm sure you will all really have a good time reading it. Please make note of this particular piece. J Matrabhutam. Please you may make note of it. It's just for outside this study. Okay, nothing related to linguist, nothing related to PG-TRB. It is just for you to have an idea of how, for example, if a Tamilian speaks English, if a Tamilian converses in English, how the pattern, the sentence structure differs, the sound differs, the sentence patterns differ, the sound patterns differ. There's something called as J. Matrabhutam's contribution to the English, to the Hindu. There's an article that he writes. Okay, the different articles, J. Matrabhutam, Matrubhotham, I think, or Bhootham, J. Matrabhutam's, his contribution to the Hindu, the newspaper, the Hindu. now it is we don't have the same columns. It's been replaced by somebody called as Agani Akka. I don't know how many of you are regular newspaper who read regular Hindu newspaper, but if at all you do read, it comes on Sunday magazine. There's a column. It used to
Does it
come to
come as a
2019.
supplement, ma'am? Does it come as a supplement, ma'am, for
Yeah,
Sundays?
as a magazine supplement, correct.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a part of the supplement magazine, and Sunday magazine, right? So it's a part of that. It comes in one of the columns in Sunday magazine. It used to come. Now it's somebody else. It's Agani Akka now. Earlier it was J. Matrabotham's essays. You read a couple of essays online also. They're funny to the core. You just keep rolling in laughter, because that's how he kind of frames, send us typical of how we speak. If say now I'm taking lecture, okay, so when I take a lecture, it's academic, it's professional, so obviously my sentences would be better framed. But just imagine if I'm talking to my son here, or I'm talking to my husband or my mom, obviously my sentence patterns would be completely different, right? So it will be more colloquial. So how a Tamilian speaks English, okay, very beautifully written articles by J. Malan, they're very funny, though the idea that he portrays are very political, very and very regional, and very relevant for us to quickly easily relate to it. Very good essays. You can just go through a couple of them just to get a hang of how he is beautifully written, the way a Tamil speaking person may talk or think or write in English. Very, very well written. You may take note of that sometime later. So this is phonology, how sentence so sound patterns differ, and how, everything is different from one language to another. So that's phonology. Then another thing that phonology does is how a particular sound is associated with an idea or an object. It's a big question to answer. When I say B, B-E-E, so this sound, I'm not talking of the letters, remember, talking of the sound. When I just say B-E-E, how is that word B? I'm sure now all of you would have got that image of a bee in your mind. I'm sure about it. Those of you listening to me, I'm sure you would have gotten the image of bee, because that's how we understand. We understand everything based on images, based on mental pictures, right? The moment I say table, all of you would have imagined a table, have a mental picture of a table. I just say cricket. Some of you would be imagining India versus Pakistan yesterday's match. Some of you would be imagining, would have cricket, the insect cricket in your mind. Different, right? So how a particular sound is associated with an idea or the object. Phonology does that. How? That is what is psycholinguistics all about. Okay. So a particular sound, how does it relate to B? When I say B-E-E, why is that word, why is that sound B-E-E related to that particular insect? When I say crow, why is that sound crow related to that particular bird? So phonology studies all that. Okay, so I'm sure you now have a good idea of what does phonology actually encompass. Let's go to phoneme. So this is from your examination point of view, it is very important. Phoneme. What is phoneme? Phoneme is the smallest unit of sound. So whether it's a consonant sound or a vowel sound or a diphthong, okay, the smallest unit of a sound is called phoneme. Remember this, please, because you have questions based on this. The smallest unit of sound is called phoneme. P, B, S, A, A, E, K. You just the word K. So they are the smallest unit of sounds in a word. They're called as phonemes. Giving you some examples on the screen. Look at the first word, telephone. Now, please do not get confused between phonemes and syllables. They're different. Do not get confused between phonemes and syllables. Phonemes are, say, telephone. How many phonemes does it have? T, A, L, A, F, F, O, N. T, A, L, A, F, O, N. 7 phonemes. But when I say syllables, telephone, trisyllabic. So syllables are different. Don't get confused. Syllables are different. Phonemes are different. T, A, L, A, F, O, N. 7. Barbarous. I've taken long, big words because so that it's easier for you to learn it. B, A, R, B, A, R, A, S. 8 phonemes. Look at the next word. Now, I have taken some diphthongs for you to understand. Now, when it comes to diphthongs, you consider this diphthong as one sound, one phoneme. Okay. So, when I say fear, it's fur and ear. It's see, if I had a board, then I would have written written the phonetic script. Okay, but then because I have done it on a PPT, I was not able to pull in the exact, the letter, the sound symbol. Okay, so please bear with that. So the word FEAR is fear. How many phonemes it has? Fur is one phoneme and ear, R is silent. So ear is another phoneme. So there are just 2 units, 2 phonemes. Fur, ear. So when it comes to diphthongs, please remember that you have to consider it as one phoneme or single phoneme. Boiler. B, oi, l, a. B, oi, l, a. Boiler. 4 phonemes. Whereas when it comes to syllables, boiler, 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 disyllabic. Whereas when it comes to phoneme, it is 4 phonemes. Clear anyone? Clear everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Please ask me if you
Yes,
have any
ma'am.
doubts right away. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
So I would just like to know if I'm sure you all are familiar with this, you know, what do you call the phonetic chart, the phonemic chart. Okay, it's called as the IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet, IPA. Okay, so I just wanted to know if I would like to take up every sound in this, but only if you people want it. Otherwise, I may just display it for some time. You may take note of it and then leave. We can move on. So, would you like me to, uh, uh, say those sounds and help you, or you're all already
Yes,
familiar?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're familiar with them?
Ma'am,
Ma'am, actually,
ma'am,
Yeah, yeah.
ma'am, I have one doubt, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am. In the last example, boiler, do we have the sound like a sound, ma'am? We
Yeah,
are
the
all
last
having
one.
yeah.
Yeah,
We just use the
sound.
word a sound,
A
but we
sound.
doesn't have that a sound, ma'am.
Why? Why
A
doesn't have
single
that?
a single a, ma'am.
You
Yes,
meant to
ma'am.
say
The
this?
last one, boiler.
No, that's what I said. No, I could not get, I could not insert the phonetic scripts. It's actually a. Boiler. A. It's boiler, right? R alone is silent.
Okay, ma'am.
R is silent, but then it is not boil. It's boiler. So it ends with a sound. So I have written A there, the alphabet, the letter A there, because I could not insert the phonetic, the phonemic symbol there. That's why I've written the normal letter A.
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am,
It's
Okay, ma'am.
supposed to be a. Okay,
Can we
l. Okay, because l is
Okay.
one sound, a is another sound. So we are talking about the smallest unit of sound. So every sound has to be considered.
Ma'am, can we use E instead of A for boiler?
No, actually, I'll tell you what. This is the symbol you're supposed to use. Do you see my phonetic IPA chart here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the symbol. Do you see my cursor?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
This is the symbol you're supposed to use at the end of boiler.
Sound.
Uh,
So we can use.
this is inverted E, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So I could not insert, that's what I said. I could not insert this particular symbol there because I'm doing it online. So had it been a board, I would have written down all the phonetic scripts for you people. I was not able to do that on the PPT, and that's why I've written the letter A.
Okay, ma'am. No
So
problem.
this is the
Okay, ma'am.
sound which has to
Now
come
we
at the end.
understand. Yes, ma'am.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am. Now we understand, ma'am.
Oh, now you understand? Okay, very good,
Yes.
very good.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So now I just wanted to know whether you people want me to pronounce these sounds or you all are familiar with it.
Please pronounce it, ma'am.
Pronounce
Yes,
once,
ma'am.
ma'am.
We all know this, ma'am.
Huh? I don't hear people. What is it?
Yes, ma'am. We're all familiar with this, ma'am.
Okay, so can I move to the next one?
Ma'am, can you do it once, ma'am? The sounds alone.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. I'll do it. No issues. Okay, so you'll have to follow me with the, with my cursor. Okay.
Sure, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So this is, you will have to remember this also, it represents 44 sounds. So this might come as an objective, a question there also. So the symbols on this chart, they represent 44 sounds which are used in British English. Okay. And what we do is, what we speak is the received pronunciation, which is otherwise called as RP. I'm sure you all know it. RP is a received pronunciation. Okay, so what is received pronunciation? Because we are not native speakers, we are non-native speakers of English, we have received that pronunciation from the native speakers. Okay, so that's why it's called as RP, or received pronunciation of the original British English pronunciation. Okay, so we have 44 sounds. So please remember this number 44. Let's do them. This is E. Okay, this is E. Are you able to see my cursor, everybody?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So this is E. Yeah, this is E. Okay, so now I'm sure you should know that all these phonetic scripts have to be written within slanted lines, slanted slashes. They have to be written within slanted lines, just like how I wrote the previous one. So instead of writing, I have written regular alphabets, regular letters, but here you have to write phonetic scripts, phonetic symbols. All right. So these are the lines you'll have to follow when you write phonetic scripts. So this is E. This is E. Okay. So these are all phonemes, one single phonemes. This is O. This is O. Again, single phonemes. Okay. A. This is this is usually this is something that comes in the end. Okay, when the R is silent, usually when the R is silent. Okay, this is how we end. This is how we end. Then this is aw. They're supposed to be aw. Okay, we're not supposed to be, we say it as door, right? It's not supposed to be door, it's supposed to be door. That's the original pronunciation. But then obviously when it comes to an Indianized version of the language, we have our own beautiful different variety of pronunciation. So we can never be in line with these, but it's just on script. I would say, even I don't pronounce D-O-O-R as door, I pronounce it as door. Please close the door, that's what I say, but it's actually not door. We don't have O there in English. We only have diphthongs like O, okay, or it's O. Okay, and basically, if you'd have known this, that the way a language the way a language evolves is much dependent on the people who speak that language, and how they speak a language is based on the climatic conditions of the place, right? The weather condition, the climatic conditions of the place. So which is most instrumental in evolution of a language. Okay, so in maybe in the West, what I heard was when in the West, because it's all the time it's very cold, so they don't want to really open their mouth and speak much, right? And that's the reason most of them, if you listen to original British English, if you watch movies, English movies, you would definitely not see people opening their mouth like us. You know, when as I talk, I'm opening my mouth wide and long in all directions, but then they wouldn't do that. The way they speak itself, you know, they just a mere lip movement, because that's the way they pronounce. When I say that's the way, they don't say that's the way, that's it. So they don't open their mouth too much, because it's basically very cold out there, and so they don't want to. That's how they don't want. If they open a lot, then obviously there's a lot of cold that gets into. So that's the reason basically their mouths don't, you know, open too much. This is door, then this is a, this is a. Okay, so this is a. Now the difference between this and this, you'll have to open your, you know, the throat a little more than this. For this, it's enough if you just say for this it's a. Okay, not so much as this. Okay, but it should be a little bigger, you know, a sound than okay, so the mouth should be a little closer here, it should be a little wider here, and this is o. Okay, this is o, this is o, this is o, and this is ah. Okay, so this is ah. So this is a, 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 this is e, this is e. Ooh, ooh. So all these are long sounds. Okay, ooh, o, a, e, a. Okay, fine. Now let's go to consonants. There are voiced and then unvoiced. Voiced consonants and unvoiced consonants. So what are voiced consonants? There's a kind of a vibration that we feel when we pronounce these or when we make these sounds. So instead of saying pronounce, I should use it to make these sounds. So when I say boat, so there's a kind of vibration that goes, you know, in the larynx and pharynx, or whatever the organs that we have, the vocal cords. You know, there's a kind of a vibration when I say boat, when I say video, when I say this, when I say dog, when I say zoo, when I say television, joke, go. So there's a vibration there. Whereas in unvoiced consonants, there's no vibration at the vocal cord. It's just per, free, thing, tree, sea, sheep, cheese, coin. You may all pronounce it. You can just mute yourself and pronounce and see, just to feel the vibration there in your vocal cord. All if you can do that, you can just mute yourself and then maybe pronounce it. I'll give you a couple of minutes for you to pronounce them. Do you see those words there below the letters? So below the phonetics symbols, you can just pronounce them and see how the vibration goes. You know, it's when I say boat, so obviously there's a vibration here. When I say mouse, now, think, hope, we, love, run, you, go, joke, there's a vibration. So they're voiced consonants, you know. And then you have these diphthongs. So what are diphthongs? Diphthongs are two sounds merged together as one. Two sounds merged together as one. So when I say wait, I say it's not wait, it's not wait, it's not wait, a sound there, a, wait, a. This a-I should be pronounced as a. Okay, so that's the sound here. Do you see the symbol here? E-I, right? It's not actually E-I. Okay, this is script. This is not your regular letter E. It's the sound, phonetic script A. Here, do you see this? A and then this I. Together, A and I together, A and E, sorry, A and E together, they become A. O and E together, they become oi. Coin, foil, boil, all these are oi. Okay, the sounds. This is I, and E, I. So like, bike. You don't say like. Do you say like? No, we call it like. We say it as like. So this L-I-K-E. I'm sure you should get a doubt. I don't know why nobody asked me. But when I say L-I-K-E, it's L-I-K-E. So how did we get this L-I-K-E like and not like? Why aren't we saying L-I-K as like and not L-I and not why aren't we saying it as like and why are we saying it as like? Why did this sound come? So this is what phonology studies. How did this sound emerge? What are the different changes that the language has undergone? Okay, so similarly, air. Okay, so this is air. So this is again, I told you, whenever you use this sound, it is usually when it is a silent consonant R there. So air. Okay, air. This is ear. Ear. This is ur. Okay, tourist. We're not supposed to say tourist. I'm going for a tour. No, I'm going for tour. Okay, so that's the original pronunciation. Okay, so I'm going for a tour. It's supposed to be tour, not tour. I'm going for a tour. You're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say it as tour if you're talking that language, right? Now, oh, show. Okay, oh. Then this is ow, mouth, ow. Okay, ow sound. All right. So maybe a couple of minutes for you to simply go through this and then try to say it aloud, because you never get a chance to do it again. So please, why don't you all, I'll give you a couple of minutes. Please try to say these words to yourself, and then let's try. So have you all tried it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we'll look at these terms. Very important. You'll have to know what are these. Now, as I told you, if you look at these scripts, okay, this phonetic script, the way a sound or the way a symbol, one of these, okay, the way a sign is the way a sign sounds in a particular position in a word. Please try to understand. The same sound may have different positions in different words. For example, when I say kitten, the sound is in the middle. When I say little, look at the word, look at the letters or the sounds rather, because we're going to be talking of phonology. Let's only talk sounds. There's somebody who is not on mute. Can you please mute? Okay. Fine. So look at this word kitten. The sound t is stuck between ki and n. Look at the word little. The sound t is stuck between li and u. This t and op. And this is not stuck, but it begins and it ends with p. Now, if you look at the pronunciation, the sounds made, let me just listen to me carefully. I say top, okay? Top, stop, little, kitten. Look at the different, please you also try to say these words to yourself, only then you will be able to understand it better. When I say top, top, say the word top and just tell me where is the sound coming from. Top, how is it being pronounced? How is it being generated? The sound, how is it being generated in your mouth? Top. Your tongue touches.
Alveolar ridge, ma'am.
Exactly. So it touches your upper part of your mouth, right? The front upper part of your mouth, which is alveolar actually. So it touches the upper front part of your mouth. Now, if you look at the word stop, it comes a little outside. Why? Because the word begins with the sound sir. So sir, right? Sir, when you say stop. So from your teeth, that your tongue moves to the upper part of your mouth. So stop. So the position of the word ter, the sound ter there is different. Similarly, when I say little, little, kitten, ter is more in the front in kitten, whereas when I say little, because the word ends with l, the word begins with l, the sound ter is different. Little, okay, little, like kitten, k and n, kitten. So if you look at this very closely and try to pronounce it your own yourself, you will know that this sound t, okay, is phonemically same, but phonetically different. Why and how? Because of the variation. And what does this variation depend on? The position of the word, or the position of the letter in the word. I mean, the sound or the letter in the word, whether it's in the initial position or final position or medial position. Where is it exactly placed? It depends on that, number one. Number two, it depends on the aspiration, voicing, and point of articulation. Whether it's bilabial, whether it's labial, whether it's alveolar, whether it's dental or whatever. So it depends on which part of the mouth, what are the different organs that are involved in pronouncing that particular sound. The aspiration, whether we leave out air or whether air is being suppressed, and then left through the nose when it comes to nasal and left through the mouth sometimes. So what exactly is happening when we pronounce these sounds? So that is what determines allophones. So what are allophones? The phonetic variations of a phoneme. Please remember the phonetic variation of a phoneme. T is a phoneme, whereas T in top is different sound. T in stop is different sound. T in kettle is different sound. T in little is different sound. T in turmeric is different sound. T in pat is different sound. Pat, it's ending, pat, it's different sound. T in torture is different sound, right? So the phonetic variation, which is the sound variation of a phoneme, is called as allophones. Remember this? Similarly, when we take per, phoneme per, The way we pronounce per in paper is different. Paper, there's a kind of aspiration. Paper. But when I say point, I say point. There's no gasping there. Point. Simple. Paper, point. There's different because of the position. One. Secondly, because of the other letters, other sounds involved. Okay. Now, coming to minimal pairs. Minimal pairs are pair of words or phrases in a language which differ in only one phonological element. Now, it could be a phoneme, it could be a toneme, or it could be a chroneme. So what are these? For example, look at this, this picture here. I don't know whether you're able to see it clearly. Is it clear now? Is it visible? The box, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, I can see, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So if you, because I couldn't paste it much bigger because it was affecting the script of the thing. Now, if you look at these minimal pairs, now they differ. Yeah.
அது வச்சுடு அதுல இது பண்ணு இல்லன்னா அதுல இருந்து ஒரு 4-5 கரண்டி மாவு எடுத்து போயிருக்கியா போட்டுட்டு ஒரு 3/4 ஸ்பூன் உப்பு போடு.
Ma'am.
Hello.
Ma'am.
Yeah, hello. So some people were speaking, so I tried to mute them. All right. So minimal pairs are pair of words or phrases in a language. They differ because of one phonological element. What phonological element? It depends. It could be a phoneme, which is a minimum, unit of sound. It could be a toneme, that is just by tone. They differ just by, just a minute. Yeah. So I'm sorry. So a phoneme, yeah, phoneme is the smallest unit of sound, we said, right? So what is toneme? Toneme is something that's based on the tone, the difference between sounds based on tone. Say for example, the word WHAT, what. Okay, it's the same. WHAT, what is one word, but the intonation, what? It's a different meaning. It's a different word. Means a different meaning altogether. They say what? It's a different tone. Right? So based on phoneme, toneme, and chroneme are the different phonological elements. Remember that. So based on any of them, what is chroneme? Chroneme is the length of a vowel sound in a word or a consonant in a word. The length of it, the length of the sound. Say for example, what? When I say what, and I just say what. Okay. So it's a difference in the, similarly, when I say wheeze and I say whiz. Okay, wheeze, I say it's a different meaning. When I say whiz, it's a different meaning, right? When I say seat, it's a different seat, S-E-A-T, right? Seat is eat, seat. But when I say sit, it's a different word, different meaning. So based on phoneme, toneme, and chroneme, okay, the words, or the pair of words or phrases, they differ because of just one phonological element. If you look at this example I've given you, look at the initial, medial, and final. So if you look at the first one, ball, tall, they are minimal pairs because just one, the first letter, the initial, ball sound, and ta sound, they are different. But then the o is different, o is the same, and la is the same. Only the first consonant sound is different. First one is ba, second one is t. Similarly, babble, battle, babble, battle, The vowel sounds are the same, a and a, whereas b, babble, and battle, t is different. Final sounds, cab and cat. Ca is the same sound, whereas b is different and t is different. So these are called minimal pairs, where the pair or the words or the phrases, the pair of words or the phrases, they differ because of just one phonological element. Look at the last one. Topper, totter, hip, hit, pie, tie, die, jai, deed, need, tidy, tiny, bad, ban, tiding, and this is taishing. What is that? I'm not able to read it properly. Pad and pal. Then there's stable and staple. Then there is lab and lap. So just because of one sound, the word, they're the words, just like how we had dog and log in the beginning, they are minimal pairs. Dog, log, they're minimal pairs. Okay. Log and bog, they're minimum pairs. Okay. Dog and dog and dot, they are minimal pairs. Dog, D-O-G, D-O-T, da is the same, whereas ga is different, ta is different. So that they are minimal pairs. Because of one phonological element, there is a difference. So they are called as minimal pairs. Is it clear? Allophones and minimal pairs. So allophones are, please remember, phonetic variations of phoneme. So the sounds differ because of the different placements in a word, because of the way a word is pronounced, the letter is pronounced, and that depends on one, the position in the word, second, the letters that follow, or the letters that precede, or the letters that, the sound that precedes and the sound that follows. It depends on that also. That is, point of articulation is where it depends in our mouth. Okay, so it depends on these factors, allophones, the phonetic variations. Then minimal pairs are because of one phonological element. It could be a phoneme or a toneme or a chroneme. There is a difference between two words, otherwise they are all the same, but one phonological element, remember that. Okay, one phonological element, they're different. So remember, minimal pairs are opposite to homophones and homonyms or homographs. They're different from that because they are one phonological element, the rest are all the same. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now let's move to syllable, elision, and assimilation. After this is morphology. I think I'll take up morphology tomorrow because it's already time. It's 49. So I'll finish syllable, elision, and assimilation. And I'll take up morphology tomorrow in tomorrow's class. Now, what is syllable? I have given you the definition, but before going to the definition, I would like to tell you, there is just that it has one vowel sound. And that vowel sound may have a consonant sound, may not have a consonant sound. So this is syllable in gist. You may go through the definition for your sake, for your understanding, but please try to understand syllable is nothing but one vowel sound with or without a consonant. For example, fan. Fa is one sound. No, fan. When I say fair, F-A-I-R, fair is monosyllabic because R is silent. So you're not going to pronounce that R. Whereas in fan, you're going to pronounce that N there. So fan, fa, no, fan is disyllabic. Whereas fair, whereas it would be F-A-I-R or F-A-R-E, whatever fair you call it, fair is monosyllabic because just one sound, fair, that's it. Remember, syllables are different from phonemes. You should remember that too. Don't get confused. This is a unit of pronunciation which has one vowel sound with or without consonants. They form the whole or part of a word. For example, water, water. Inferno, inferno. Look at water. Wa, the consonant sound w and the vowel sound o. The consonant sound t and the vowel sound a. Wa plus That is v plus o plus t plus a. Water. Inferno. Inferno. In, a combination of vowel and consonant. E is a vowel, n is a consonant. In. Fur. Fur is a consonant. Is a vowel. No. N is a consonant. O is a vowel. Inferno. Right? Then. So these are for the syllables, where a unit of pronunciation having one vowel sound with or without consonant, surrounding consonants, but they form the whole or part of a word. Okay. What are open syllables? Go, shade, cliche, sky. So they mostly end with diphthongs or vowel sounds. Okay. They mostly end with diphthongs or vowel sounds. Remember this? Diphthongs or vowel sounds. Open syllables. Closed syllables end with consonant sounds. Look at this. Education. Na is consonant sound. Post. Ta is consonant sound. Look at the last word. M-A-L-E. This is what I want you to understand. I told you when I spoke of open syllables, I told you they end with either diphthongs or vowel sounds. Look at S-K-Y. Is Y a vowel sound? Is Y a vowel? No. But then the word is a vowel sound. It ends with diphthongs. Sky, I. So it is an open syllable. So when a word ends with a diphthong or a vowel sound, remember, not a vowel, but vowel sound, then it is open syllable. When is it closed syllable? When it ends with a consonant sound. Again, consonant sound. Look at the last word, M-A-L-E. E is a vowel. It is a vowel, but then E is silent here in this word. You only say male, 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 2 syllables. You don't say Malay or you don't say Malay. You say male. E is silent. And so the word ends with the L sound and not E sound. And so it is a closed syllable. All right. Now, elision or deletion. Now, all of you know what are deletions and elisions. They are left out. Certain sounds are left out of a phrase or a word for various reasons, you know. Maybe because of the word structure itself, because of the word structure, or maybe because in order to sound good, you know, euphonic effect. What is euphonic effect? To sound good, to sound not cumbersome to pronounce. Okay, so it shouldn't sound very hard. That's what euphonic effect means. It should sound smooth. It should sound, you know, frictionless. It should sound very melodious. It should sound good because of that, so that there is not much interruption. There is not much hullabaloo while pronouncing a particular word. Okay, that is euphonic effect. For easier pronunciation of euphonic effect, and because of the structure of a particular word, you omit certain sounds. It could be either in the ending or in the middle. There's something called as silent, say for example, when I say phlegm, okay, I say phlegm, the spelling is P-H-L-E-G-M. P-H-L-E-G-M. Just imagine if I would say phlegm, how would it sound? But when I say phlegmatic, I don't say phlegmatic, I say phlegmatic. I do say the j there because it is easy for me to say the j there. But when I say F-L-P-H-L-E-G-M, it is difficult for me to have an intruder sound j, g there, g. Phlegm. it is not very easy for me to pronounce phlegm. When I say phlegm is much better. So I leave out the G there. I leave out that G sound there. So that's omission or elision or deletion. Okay. So I leave out that sound of that phoneme G. So when I say phlegm, F-P-H-L-E-G-M, the phonemes that you would write will be phlegm, F, L, A, M. That's it. When I tell you, give me the syllables of phlegm, phlegm, 2 syllabic. Okay. So are you able to understand what I'm trying to say? Because I'm only talking in air, I feel. If I have a board, I would write them down so that you will be able to understand it better. But just orally, I don't know how many of you are able to really imagine that and then try to understand. So omission and deletion is nothing but you leave out a particular sound or a phoneme, okay, the sound, because for ease of pronunciation. And how does it ease arrive? Based on the structure of the word, the sound structure. You know, what is the sound that precedes it? What is the sound that succeeds it? Okay, when I say male, M-A-L-E, I could have, why did not I say Malay or Malay? Why didn't I say that? I feel, oh, why should I add that E there as another sound? I would just call it male, simple. So this is what is elision all about. Okay, so for example, never, N-E-V-E-R. I would say never. But many people say never, never. The V is swallowed. I don't know, right? I don't know. That's how it is. But then how many of us say, I don't know? I say, I don't know. The T is completely gone. I don't know. I don't even say, I don't know. We say, I don't know. Don't know. So it almost becomes a. Then when I say C-A-M, when I want to say C-A-M-E-R-A, I don't say camera. I say camera. Why don't you bring your camera here? Camera. But it goes on that. I simply leave out that a sound there. Then hot and sweet, it becomes hot and sweet. So just try to say hot and sweet. You don't say hot and sweet. You say how difficult it becomes. I like only hot and sweet recipes. Hot and sweet. I like hot and sweet recipes. So how easy it becomes for me to pronounce this. H-O-T-and-S-W-E-E-T, hot and sweet. So hot and sweet. Dustbin, T. I simply swallow dustbin. Duster. I swallow T and I make it dustbin. And I make it grandpa, I make it grandma. Instead of saying grandpa and grandma, the D is obstructing me. So I don't want to say that. So I'll just say grandpa, I would just say grandma. I would just say handsome. Say this word handsome, H-A-N-D-S-O-M-E. He's a handsome guy. I don't say he's a handsome guy, handsome. I don't say he's a handsome guy. The D is swallowed. I don't say Christmas, I say Christmas. The next day, yeah, the next day. Oh, you should come the next day. Now comes the Indianized pronunciation, especially the North Indians. They're very fond of the T, the end of the word. Why don't you come the next day? Even sometimes someone is first. Instead of saying first, we say first. You should come first. Sure. You know, these are different ways. So this is where Indianized English tries to confuse all of us. You know, it's supposed to be next day. The next day, I have to come, okay? You have to come, okay? Next day, please come. So not necessary, you'll have to say next day, just next day. The last car, no, the last car. That's what we say. So these are elision. The examples of elision and deletion. Please take note so that you're able to answer them when you're asked, because elision deletions come quite a few times. Then comes assimilation. Assimilation is where a sound becomes almost like the nearby sound and it loses its own individuality. But what happens is both are heard, okay? Both the sounds are heard and they almost become a new sound kind of, you know. It's not like they're completely let off like in elision or deletion, okay? It's neither that way where they're completely let out. It's not that. But they merge to become a new sound. For example, When I want to say HAVE space TO, I would not say have to, I would say have to. So what happens is VE becomes fur, have to. You have to do it, yeah. I don't say you have to do it. It becomes Indian English. You have to do it, okay? Have to. No, you don't have to say that. Have to. So when I say for E is a phrase, you have to do it. So when I say have to, the VE changes to fur, have to. Back tongue, back tongue. There's no D there. Back tongue. D and t together make one D. Okay, back tongue. Big car. It becomes car. Big car. Okay, seen carry. Now look at this. Seen carry. I've seen him carry. So seen carry. Seen carry. Seen carry become incare. Incare. Okay, incare. Similarly, inge. 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 So the sound completely becomes a new one. I've seen Greg. I've seen Greg. Inga. Nanga sound. If I would just take you up there. Do you see this Inga sound? Ga. You see this here? Ga. It becomes this. When I say have to, the sound becomes, instead of saying ver, where is this ver? Ver, have to, I say have to. Instead of saying seen Greg, I say seen Greg. Nga sound. Okay, so the sound changes. Seen Greg, seen Gary. This is assimilation. Assimilation is becoming one with others, becoming one, taking in everything. This is assimilation. So the definition is on your screen for you to note down. The phonological process by which one sound becomes more like a nearby sound. The typical way I pronounced, did you all notice? More like. I said more like. Typical Indian. Supposed to be more like. More. R is silent. More like a nearby sound. Two sounds come together and change or melt into a new sound. So this is assimilation. Okay, it is past time. It is past 9. So I'm sure many of you will have different commitments. So